history was made in Ottawa this afternoon as the House of Commons elected a new speaker. He's Greg Fergus, the Liberal MP for the Quebec riding of Hull-Aylmer near Ottawa. Fergus becomes the first Black Canadian to be elected speaker.
Honorable député de Hull-Aylmer, Greg.
And that was the moment Fergus's win was announced. As is tradition, he feigned that he was being dragged to the Speaker's chair by the Prime Minister and leader of the official opposition. Fergus's election.
And I'm just stopping it there as well. I actually wanted to share this because oftentimes we hear of the challenges and the barriers that we are encountering, but we don't always hear much of the progress that we're making. Those progress is sometimes slow. I just wanted to highlight these moments of wins and victory. And I do see you agree with me based on the emojis that's going up. So thank you so much. Michelle, over to you for the African Ancestral Acknowledgement and Intentional Reflection. Michelle, you're muted in case you're speaking. Oh, yes. So Michelle's unable to unmute. Delaney, can you unmute Michelle, please? Sorry about that, Michelle.
Yeah, she should be able to do that now.
Okay, Michelle, do you want to try?
There we go. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sorry about that. That's okay. Thank you, Donna Lee. Thank you for the honor of being here today and for the ability or the chance to say the African Ancestral Acknowledgement. Prior to that, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Michelle D'Souza, and I'm a supervisor with the Toronto Employment and Social Services Social Services. As a person of African descent whose family came to these lands seeking a better life, but instead met with systemic barriers they had to overcome, I acknowledge the struggles they face and draw on their resilience and strength as I move forward. As I reflect on the African Ancestral Acknowledgement, I think of my beginnings at the beginning of my career with TESS as a caseworker and my professional development. I've held many different roles, participated in many projects to support and build communities, developed procedures, and as a supervisor, I've had a great deal of satisfaction working alongside our dear Donna Lee on the division's Families with Children with Special Needs project. Along the way, I've had many mentors that have inspired me and have pushed me to achieve my goals because they saw my potential. Because of the mentoring I received early in my career, being a mentor came naturally to me. I like to say it's a natural state of being. I believe there is merit in the old saying, you teach people to fish rather than fish for them, or something like that. Mentoring is a tool that you use to teach. It's a gift that keeps on giving. Our wonderful panelist, Jennifer Pitt. Jennifer, I'm sorry, I have to spotlight you. Was my mentor, or was and is my mentor. And I like to say is because I continue to seek her guidance, especially when challenging situations come up. Jennifer, I hope you have someone like you that you go to. She is kind and patient and makes herself available to share her wisdom with anyone that asks. I'm also proud to say that many of the people I've mentored have progressed in their career, and some I've spoken to have become mentors themselves, the gift that keeps on giving. One of the roles I'm especially proud of and brings me joy is my role as co-chair of the Toronto Employment and Social Services Black Staff Network. I'm proud of the work we've done to support the Black staff at TESS, especially supporting our Black staff with their professional development. Through our collaborative interdivisional speed mentoring event with Children's Services and Toronto Buildings, our professional development events, and other works like our collaboration with SSHA. Hence, here we are today. I'm also proud to have been successful in the job. I wanted to share with you that I'm also proud to have been successful in the job call for the Manager of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, temporary assignment with TESS. I'm looking forward to this opportunity to support changes in our division, and I will honor my ancestors by continuing the work they began and by saying, the City of Toronto acknowledges all treaty people, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, in this generation and in generations past, and those who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. We pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. Thank you, Donnelly.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Wow. Michelle, did you see all those emojis and love and hearts and applause and congratulations that you're getting? Look at all the love you're getting.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. So without further ado, I want to jump right in and introduce our panelists today. Starting with Karlene, meet Karlene James. Karlene is a cisgendered Black woman with multiple intersecting identities, whose roots are in the Caribbean and Africa diasporas. A seasoned professional, Karlene came to the public sector in 2015 and began her career as a manager of quality and performance at 311 Toronto. In 2018, Karlene joined a multidisciplinary team of 311 Toronto, Toronto Paramedics, and SSHA, leading her to her current role in SSHA as the Manager of Business Practices Modernization with the Service Planning and Integrity section. Karlene's expertise includes experience in quality score design and measurement, quality calibration programs, process improvement, employee engagement, coaching, talent development, facilitation, project leadership, storytelling, and visual communications. With her expertise and dedication, Karlene has helped organizations understand the value of key performance indicators and top-line metrics to improve their operations and achieve their goals. In her personal life, Karlene is an aspiring wannabe interior designer who lives in Scarborough on the traditional territories of the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewas, and the Mississaugas of the Credit River First Nation. Please show Karlene some love. Oh, Karlene, and look, I don't have to even say that. All the love's going up. All right. Scott Callendar, meet Scott. Scott Callendar is the present manager of the Seton House portfolio with over 25 years of experience working at Seton House. Scott began his career at Seton House as a part-time assistant hostel supervisor, which was the precursor of the client service worker position. He was one of only a small group of Black staff working there at the time. Thereafter, he has held several positions while at Seton House, such as shift leader, program coordinator, supervisor of social assistance, program supervisor, assistant manager, and most recently, opened 2 new shelters at Junction Place Shelter and 705 Progress. All through his career at Seton House, his interactions with staff and clients have always been guided by and grounded in the fundamental principles of dignity and respect, and in seeing the intrinsic value and self-worth that is inherent in all of us. In 2009, Scott graduated with a Bachelor of Social Work degree from Toronto Metropolitan University. This learning was also very important to his growth. It has taught him the importance of addressing social justice issues both at an institutional, systemic, and individual level. For that reason, Scott continues to be an advocate for supports and services that enhance the overall well-being of clients and staff, while also supporting the voices that are seeking to ensure that equity and diversity are essential cornerstones of our operations and the service we provide. In his spare time, Scott enjoys working out and watching football or basketball. He also likes reading history books, especially on the Black experiences in both the Caribbean and the North America. Please show Scott some love. And on to our final panelist, Jennifer Pitt. Meet Jennifer. Jennifer is a proud employee of the Toronto Public Service for over 3 decades. Jennifer has 30 plus years of service at Toronto Employment and Social Services, holding many progressive leadership roles. Currently, Jennifer is a director of the Toronto Employment and Social Services East District, Client Special Services, Client Service and Access, with responsibility for over 350 staff. Jennifer is the proud executive sponsor for both TESS Black Staff Network and TESS Confronting Anti-Black Racism Committee. She's dedicated to promotion of cultural change, diversity, inclusive workplace, and the collaboration with all communities of inclusion. She has over 15 years of championing organizational practices that promote mentorship and staff development. She's championing many important divisional and corporate initiatives in support of equity and inclusion. She is most proud to be the daughter of a Jamaican mother and a Grenadian father who was a true social justice advocate. Jennifer is the mother of 2 beautiful children. Jennifer holds an honors Bachelor of Arts from University of Toronto and Human Resource Management from Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly York University. Please show our panelists, Jennifer, Scott, and Karlene, a warm welcome and thank you for being here today with us to share your career journey. And look, my audience and my, they're all excited for you all to be here with us. So let's jump right into what everyone wants to hear. Um, let's talk about your leadership journey. What was your career path to get to the position you're currently in? Were there any challenges that acted as setbacks for you, or was a catalyst to help you get to this level? And Karlene, I think I'll start with you.
Thank you. And I just want to say a huge thanks to you, Donna Lee, for all you do to set these things up. And I'm just honored to share this stage with the esteemed panel members representing Black leadership. So my path to my current position, it's been challenging and it's been rewarding, but by no means was it a straight line. And I'm going to go back, I'm going to go way back to talk about this because I think this is a real catalyst to how I sort of inform some of the decisions in my life today. So going back in grade school, I actually went to 6 different elementary schools by the time I got to grade 8. My dad was in sales and we moved around quite a bit. So as you can imagine, for a kid, that was brutal to make friends. Some friends had been like together since, with their crew since kindergarten. And for us, it was difficult. It was me and my older sister, and I was kind of always used to being the new person. In Hamilton, we had a situation where the school board informed us that they were going to be splitting the district and we would be going to a new school. My sister and I were like over the moon. We just thought, okay, new books, new library, new gymnasium, bring it. We're going to have it. Only to find out that we were the only 2 Black children in the school. So that was sort of one of my formative sort of memories about resilience and embracing change, and that's something that informs my career to this day. So fast forward a little bit. I've spent the greater part of my career in the private sector, as you've heard from Donna Lee, and mostly working in contact centers and contact center operations. So I took on different positions of increasing responsibility. I had, and that's everything from working online on phones, answering calls as a customer service representative, to actually being a supervisor, and then finally being the national manager of a quality team at TELUS. And when I was there, I felt like I had my dream job. I was supporting 60 people in different regions across the country. I had the opportunity to travel. I had the opportunity to work closely with a colleague in continuous learning. And all in all, I would say we probably onboarded about 1,000 team members during that time that we worked together. It was a job that really helped me to hone my leadership skills. And one day, I got a call, and it was completely out of my comfort zone, and it was from a headhunter. And it turned out that the colleague that I had worked so closely with in continuous learning provided sponsorship for me to think about going to another role and another opportunity. And Mama said it's free to listen. So I listened, and it turned out that I fell back on my sort of previous thing about embracing change. I embraced change. I took the leap, and I left a 14-year career at TELUS to join an insurance company called Aviva Canada. I had the opportunity to choose my team and set up, and I had an incredible boss. Like, I can't even tell you the things that I learned and the mentorship that I got from my boss. He believed in metrics and KPIs, and that's where I really got grounded in that sort of work. He left, and he went to work for a financial institution, and he looked me in the eye and asked if I would join. Again, I got out of my comfort zone, and I said, sure, why not? And I joined along, and that didn't last long. That lasted less than a year. And for the first time, I experienced being packaged out. And you know what? It was okay, because what I realized about that situation was I worked with a great team, high energy, high motivation, high performers, but it was real salesy. And at my core, that just wasn't me. So it's almost like fate had intervened, and I was, found myself in a situation I hadn't been. But again, relying on my ability to embrace change and resilience, I applied for one job, and the one job that I applied for was at the city at 311 Toronto. And I had to do an assessment and present that at the interview. But instead of just doing that, I went one little step further, and I tapped into my quality background. As a matter of fact, I tapped into the team that I used to work with at Aviva, and I created a scorecard and created scenarios and asked if they would call into 311 and do the work that they do and actually fill out the scorecards. They sent them all back to me. I aggregated that information, and in an authentic way, I was able to bring that information up in an interview. And I think that the one job, the one bet that I made on myself, it definitely worked. So one of the things that I would sort of sum up that experience to say is, bet on you. Bet on yourself, believe in yourself, and believe in your abilities. Embrace change. Sometimes it's not easy, but along with that, if you lean into the embracing change and you're not quite there yet, embrace continuous learning. And the last final thing I'll say about that is be authentic. So you sometimes have that feeling in your gut when you know something is not right or not for you. Be authentic, because authenticity is definitely a powerful leadership trait.
Amazing. Wow, wonderful response there, Karlene. What a way to stand out too, like, with the scorecard, like amazing work there. Jennifer, Scott, do you want to add anything to that question? Mhm.
Sure, I'll jump in, or Scott, unless you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind jumping in. Again, my career sort of originated organically. I mean, I started at Seton. That was back in 1998. A friend of mine told me, there's a position there. Would you like to apply? So I applied and was successful, and had no, initially I wanted to be an electronic engineer. So I was actually going to school at the time to be an electronic engineer. So, while working at Seton House, I'm going to school, and while I'm there, I'm like, since I'm here, I think it's worthwhile to understand the work that I'm doing. So, after I finished my electronic engineering diploma, I enrolled at Toronto Metropolitan University, which used to be Ryerson, and I was working the overnight shift and going to school and to attain the social service worker degree. Again, for me, I was always curious. I was always curious about learning. I wanted to understand the work that I was doing. So I said, it's better if I invest in myself. to truly understand the work that I was doing. And the other piece too, while working the overnight shift, I think for most people that are coming up in the organization is to find ways to make yourself valuable. Find ways to, create, be creative, and your creativity is basically to enhance the program that you're working at, but also to enhance the lives of the clients that we provide services to. So that was but particularly my motivation was to figure out the theoretical part of the work that I was doing because I already had the practical aspects of it. But to get that foundation, I felt it was important to go back to school to understand that piece and sort of bring that pieces together. And again, I think sometimes you need opportunities and you need breaks as a person working in the front line. And you know, those opportunities and breaks were offered to me, and I took those opportunities. Obviously, there was, failures along the way, but I never saw failure as a deficit in my ability to do the work. I saw failure as an opportunity to sort of learn and enhance my skills to do better the next time. And that's part of the wisdom I try to, sort of mentor new employees that are coming in is that, take chances on yourself. You know, apply for opportunities, and if you fail, don't see it as a deficit in yourself. Seize it as an opportunity for you to do better and to learn. So I took those opportunities. I was very, curious about learning. So every opportunity that came my way, I took it. You want to be the SSA, you want to apply for it, I did. Program coordinator, I did. Assistant manager, I did, because I wanted to learn the work. I wanted to understand the work better, to enhance my skill and to enhance the services for the clients that we provide services to. And again, it just, for me, my career at Seton, I was just sort of evolved organically. I had no interest. I was just there. I was working. But one of the things that I always say, and I've said it a number of times, is that there wasn't a day that I didn't feel like going to work. You have to be passionate about the stuff that you do. You have to fall in love with the work that you're doing. And to this day, there's never a day where I get up in the morning and say, I don't want to go into that place. I love what I do, and I think that's important. I think it's important that people find something that they like doing and fall in love with it. And all the success and accolades will come thereafter. That's just my sort of career journey at Seton House.
Thank you, Scott. And I like the piece that you added about education, going back, not never being afraid to go back and, see where you have some gaps and where you can improve. Awesome. Jennifer?
Great, thanks, Donna Lee. And again, I'd like to say a big thank you to you for organizing this amazing event. And I'm glad to see there's over 75 people in attendance today. So thanks so much for taking care of all the logistics around pulling something like this off. It's not easy. And to Karlene and Scott, nice to meet you. I don't know Scott's, but it's really happy to be with you here today. And this is a small drop in the bucket of the amazing Black leadership across the city of Toronto. So there's a lot more out there. At every one of these sessions that I'm at, I'm always so thrilled to see all the fantastic Black staff who are moving up and through the organization. So just really quickly on my career, because I feel like I've been with the city since when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. So it's been a long time. I've been with TESS for over 3 decades. And I really fell into that job, as many people do. But shortly after arriving in this division, I knew this is where I wanted to make my career. I was passionate about the work, and really could see from early on in my career the importance of what the division did to really support the most vulnerable in the city of Toronto, many of whom at the time were newcomers. And I wanted to make my mark there, and to grow my career there. So I've done most of the jobs in this division. I was a frontline caseworker, a supervisor. I was the manager of organizational planning and development, where I really loved the staff engagement piece, the mentoring and building staff development programs. That's really what I'm most passionate about. And I've also been an operational manager, and supporting staff and the clients. And for the last 6 years, have been a director in the East District. And so have made TESS my home, and have really, really been proud of the work that this division does and the way that I've been able to contribute. I just want to tell a quick story that when I was a supervisor, after probably about a year, there was a process that happened when all the newer supervisors reverted back to their former positions as caseworkers. And, you know, when you talk about challenges in your career, I think you always have to look at how do you turn those challenges into opportunities? You know, how do you make, as they say, lemonade out of lemons? And I remember my father saying, well, what are you going to do with this opportunity? And I didn't really see it as an opportunity at the time, but I decided I would go back to school. And that's when I went back to former Ryerson to do my human service management degree. And that opened up a whole new career. I'm not actually even sure I would be here today at this table with you had that situation not happened, and had I decided not to go back to school and pursue a career in human resources. And as a result of that, it opened doors for me. I was able to become a supervisor in the human resources department. I was then able to become a manager, and took all of that experience into my career as I moved forward. So just want to say to everybody that your career is the career path is very rarely linear. It is a journey, and it has to and fro's, back and forward. And the degree to which you are a success is being able to turn those what look like obstacles, setbacks, and challenges into positives. And how are you going to utilize that learning to propel your journey forward? So it's part of your journey, and you have to accept that those things are going to happen. But it's really what you do with that that really makes a difference. And I tell that story a lot because I think it's important for people to know that when you have a setback, you need to figure out a way to turn it on its head, take control of your journey, and figure out how you're going to use that as an opportunity to move forward. So really, it's a good lesson, because if anybody says they go through their I don't think it's true. But you've got to figure out how to turn it into an opportunity. So that's what I have to say for your journey.
Awesome. Wow, wonderful. Lots of great nuggets dropped there from all three of our panelists. So we just wanted to just move into our second question. Considering the intersectional complexities, such as gender, race, culture, religious belief, etc., the stereotypes associated with these intersectionalities, everyone experienced leadership differently. These differences can impact leadership within the organization. Do you feel, as a Black leader in the organization, there are times when you've had to navigate your identity or compromise when it comes to expressing yourself? And kind of think about, how would you advise a Black staff who is new to leadership or just seeking to move into a non-union position to remain authentic to themselves and use their voice and identity to navigate leadership in the organization? And Jennifer, let's start with you.
Thanks, Donna. It's such a great question. And I certainly want to piggyback on what both Karlene and Scott said about being authentic. And I don't think that you can do what you need to do, live the life you want to live, contribute the way you want to contribute, and succeed the way that you need to succeed if you aren't authentic. I was raised as to be a very proud Black woman, and that's how I presented myself in my workplace from the day I arrived there. Never made any excuses, never felt I had to explain myself. I just owned my space. I did the work. I made sure people knew who I was, what I stood for, what I could do, and never compromised. And I think that's so important. And I've obviously been very fortunate that I've had mentors and supports along the way. And we can certainly talk about that. You can't do this alone. We all need those supporters, whether they're formal or informal, to help us navigate through the organization. But I think it is really important to be your authentic self. I think you're not going to be happy and fulfilled in your career unless you can do that. And certainly recognize that that's not always easy to do. And there are lots of challenges and obstacles to that. But I made some decisions early in my career that I would seek out the supports that I needed, the mentors and support that I needed that could help me navigate through the organization. When I started as a caseworker at TESS, there was, I think, one Black supervisor at the time. And I used to spend a lot of time with her trying to help me figure out how am I going to move through this organization. And she gave me that advice early on. You have to be a proud Black woman. You need to show up and be really clear about who you are and what you do, and what your value is to the organization, and don't settle. And so I took that advice to heart, really relied on my mentor and others to help me through those, challenging situations. And I think I've never looked back. So I really, really think it is important for you to figure out who you are, what it is you want to do, what you have to offer, find the supports that are available to you, because there are supports. And I think that's part of the challenge. Sometimes people don't know, who do I go to for advice and counsel, particularly if you're new in the organization, you don't have those supports. So I think I really want to encourage people where they have opportunities to join. For instance, in TESS, we have a Black staff network, to really reach out and figure out where those supports are to help you with that navigation. So I'll hand it over to Scott and Karlene.
All right, Scott, you're in the hot seat.
I mean, I couldn't agree more in terms of what Jennifer has just said. I think, you have to be authentic to yourself, but I think part of being authentic is being confident, confident in your ability to do the work. And how do you become confident is by understanding the work that you're doing. And in our position as managers, there will always be, different sources pulling you in different direction, but you have to be true to yourself. But I think also important in being authentic is also understanding to the other side's perspective, understanding what their point of view and their position. So when you do have conversations about differences, you understand the totality of the issues that you're dealing with. Again, it's difficult, but you have to be true to yourself. You have to, be confident in your ability to do the work. And as Jennifer said, you put your head down and you do the work. You do the work and let your performance speak for itself. And that's the advice that I give to new employees coming into the organization all the time is, put your head down and just get the work done. Don't worry about the outside noises, just do the work. And eventually that good work will come to the surface and people will recognize it and sort of recognize you for your ability. And again, you need opportunities, you need breaks, you need people in upper management to recognize the skills that you have and give you those opportunities and give you those encouragement. But in terms of navigating my identities, at this point, I haven't. I'm pretty confident in who I am and what I do. And that comes from learning the work, understanding the work, and again, being fair and equitable in your decision making. That's an important piece. I think those principles kind of guide your decision making. And those are the pieces that I use, to make decisions, is to be fair and to be equitable, right, to the individuals that I work with, and to be supportive to the group that you work with. So that's my perspective on that piece. And as Jennifer said quite a bit, and I agree totally with her perspective on that piece. So I'll pass it over to my good friend Karlene to add to that piece.
Yeah, and I'm gonna kind of put it in like, authenticity is the word of the day. I'm just gonna say that for just right out loud. I'm going to sort of take it from the perspective of navigating this space, and definitely know and embrace your identity. So deeply understand who you are, how you move through the world. For me, I'm a quiet person by nature. Imagine being the Black person sitting at boardroom tables, and you're quiet, you're introspective, you're putting those pieces together, but yet you're kind of being judged on your competence level for not speaking up or not saying something. And that's not naturally how I'm wired. So I had to, find ways to kind of work around that and to be able to bring that to the table in an authentic way. Leverage your uniqueness. There's nobody newer than you. but leverage your uniqueness. So recognize that you're an individual and you bring a lived experience to the table, and with that lived experience, you are bringing a beautiful complexity to the table. Be okay to seek allies and advocates. I remember being part of a meeting where we had called some subject matter experts together, and there were some Black staff members that didn't really say anything. And I remember going, and this was a huge thing that we were working on about changing and a cultural shift that we were trying to make. And I went to them afterwards, one-on-one. One of them had pages of notes, pages of notes. The other had so many things that I took pages of notes. And I, knowing myself, I didn't say to them, why did you say that? You know, why didn't you say that at the table? But what I do now is I do make sure that I go to my colleagues that are allies and make sure that they do a circle back of some Black staff members too that were in meetings, and make sure that they do get their input, because knowing myself and how I move through the world, that is one thing that I have shared with allies. And be okay to network and seek out mentorship, even if it feels uncomfortable. I can say that as a naturally shy person and quiet person, but even if it feels uncomfortable, find an authentic way to do that. Networking is just talking to people. And it really comes down to that. And there's some common ground that you can meet everyone on. If there's anyone that you come across that says they haven't encountered any biases or stereotypes as a Black leader, please introduce us to them. We would like to meet them. So the final thing that I would say about that is self-care and resilience. Make sure that you are finding ways to pour into yourself and pour into. Leadership can be demanding. It can be like demanding emotionally. You know, we don't have jobs where we do the, you know, physical heavy lifting, but emotionally we can be drained and we can be depleted. So self-care and resilience is definitely a way to be able to navigate that space as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that question. And you know what? You kind of also touched on the third question I had, so I won't go into that question anymore about finding that connection and support and community amongst your peers and those who report to you. So you've already stated that, this is not something, I believe it was Jennifer who mentioned, this is not something you do on your own. Find others, seek people out. And as you just mentioned as well, Karlene, about, finding that mentorship, and Scott, you so eloquently also put it, be your authentic self, show up in your own authentic way. So moving to, and just kind of keeping in mind for time, because I want to leave some time for our audience. I see some questions already coming in. I'll just maybe do our last question, and that's number 4 question. How have you approached developing and supporting Black staff to ensure succession management and the continuation of advancement of Black staff within the organization as part of your legacy? And Scott, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so it's a really great question. Back in 2020, a group of us at CETNOS actually had the idea of starting a Black mentorship program. Shout out to Stephanie Parsons, Rota Downey, Carlo O'Brien, Chad Gould, and Dean Myers. We got together and felt that it's something we wanted to create to sort of, create a legacy at CETNOS, to create a pathway for Black staff that are coming into the organization so they can see themselves reflected at the top, which is something that was very scarce when I started back in 1998. Again, there was only a handful of us working at CETNOS, and primarily we worked the night shift, right? So we started that, and then we aligned ourselves with the corporate Black mentorship program. Tamika reached out, and we sort of leveraged that, and lo and behold, you have this Black mentorship program. But again, the idea was to create a pathway so that Black staff that are coming into the organization could see themselves going into these management positions. Because again, when I started, there were very far and few between Black managers in those positions. So we wanted to create that. So, and again, for me, it was about, to your point, Donna Lee, is about legacy. What legacy do you want to leave behind for Black staff that are coming into the organization? And we felt that this was the best way to do it, the best route to take. And so we grew the program, and obviously the program is still active and involved. And Again, it's to create opportunities for Black staff. And again, there's other opportunities that that I talk about all the time with my director in terms of figuring out ways to create opportunities for frontline staff of color who are there, so that they can get opportunities to go into some of these management positions. Because one of the things that we hear a lot about is this idea around experience. I don't have enough experience to do the job. So creating those opportunities, so that these Black employees and employees in general can get an opportunity to kind of sit in some of these positions and experience it. That's the legacy that we wanted to create. That's the legacy that I wanted to create and leave behind. So that's one of the ways I've sort of engaged in terms of creating opportunities for Black staff coming into the organization.
Wow, thanks, Scott. Jennifer, do you want to jump in there?
Excuse me. Thanks, Donnelly. I mean, this is such an important a topic of conversation, and we could talk for hours, but I'll just say, as it relates to certainly on the corporate level, of course, with our commitments to confronting anti-Black racism, we have an action plan. And so all of the divisions have responsibility for moving that forward within their own divisions. I know in our division, we certainly have staff that are dedicated to this work. At the committee level, we do have our Black Staff Network that Michelle D'Souza is the co-chair here, and providing an opportunity for Black staff to join. And there's wonderful work being done in that regard. But in the final analysis, if you can't measure it, it's not going to happen. So you have to have accountability and expectations about how you're going to improve the opportunities for Black staff in the organization and at TESS through our HR practices. We have prioritized this work, and I'm really proud to say that the division TESS does not look the same in 2023 than it looked in 2020, and particularly at the leadership table. In my own district, I have 3 Black managers out of 5 in my district. And that is change that is happening across the entire organization at the senior table, as well as middle management. I know there's lots of representatives from TESS on this table and this group today, and I'm sure many of them would agree that at the management level in the organization has seen a significant shift over the last couple of years. So the organization needs, all the divisions need to take those steps to ensure that this is built in to their HR plans, their broader talent management plans, and that the organizations are aware about what we're doing and why, and preparing the next generation. Again, TESS doesn't look anything like when I started, and I don't have many years left in the organization, and it's really important to me to make sure that these structures that are built are long lasting, and that we're going to see the change that we need to see in the near future, so that Black staff and other communities of inclusion can contribute to the success and the future of their divisions and of the work at the city. But I think a lot of important work has been done, and I'm quite hopeful about the change that's going to come.
Amazing work being done all around at SSHA and at TESS. Karlene, you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to pick up on the comment that Jennifer made about the structure and like how we can ensure. One of the ways is sponsorship. So we're doing mentorship here, and I think that's an amazing thing. But as leaders, sponsorship gets us to the place where we are advocating for others in spaces that they are not yet in. So it is an opportunity to float someone's name out there, share the good work, make sure that we're celebrating success stories. So there, I saw somebody from Streets to Homes, and they were on a panel for the one of those city town halls, and I made sure to get that far and wide and celebrate what that team member and colleague was doing. I would say for sure, build a network, Black staff network, the mentoring network. Those are definitely, fantastic opportunities. This is going to be One that one of my colleagues has talked about is the diversity in hiring practices and promotions, and to be able to sort of, you know, challenge that and advocate for diverse hiring practices. And finally, the one thing that we're doing here, set an example. Continue to set an example in terms of, you know, we could be leaders that, you know, show the weight of leadership, but here we're surrounded by leaders that are really celebrating leadership and where they are. And I think that's a fantastic example, because others will want to follow and be leaders in this space as well too.
Awesome. Amazing. Amazing work. Thank you so much, panelists, for such a infused knowledge, detailed knowledge. I know we have short time, but you provide so much good tidbits and knowledge and information that you've shared with us. And you've also shared your life's journey with us. And we are so privileged to be here and hearing the path that you walked. I just have a few questions in the chat. So if you bear with me, I'm just going to read. This one says, how does one who have had 8 years experience from his home country in a position and is currently working with the city for 2 years now, how could one get a promotional job or policy advocacy officer job? It seems the companies hired to screen applications do not take into account experiences from other countries. Anything being done to have this barrier removed? So I guess this question is asking, you know, how do we translate internationally trained professionals, take their credentials into consideration? You know, this is very much a HR question, and not sure if any of the panelists have had any experience with that. But maybe one of the things I could also recommend while they're having their answers, their comments, or Jennifer looks like she's ready. Yeah. Jennifer, you look like you're giving me, I'm ready.
Yeah, I could do this quickly. I've had a lot of experience in HR in my division, and it's sort of and I've supported many corporate initiatives. And I'll just say, I mean, there's a long answer and a short answer. I certainly think when it comes time to prepare for corporate job calls, then the city runs processes in a way that's probably unique to the city. So it's important that you understand how divisional and corporate job calls are run. What does, how are resumes screened? What are they looking for? The importance of key qualifications. I just finished going through 2 manager job calls, and we don't care where you have the experience, but we need it to be demonstrated in the job call, in your application, that you have the experience. As a matter of fact, we're trying to bring on more and more diverse candidates from outside of the city to fill many positions. We want to know where people have worked and the experiences that they have. So I think it's important to understand the job call process, how to make yourself competitive, how to complete the application properly, and once you are screened in, how to prepare for the interview. The city process, again, is very unique to the city. It's not like applying for jobs outside. There's a specific way those job calls are run. So I think finding folks in your division that you can speak to, if you have in-house HR, and if not, connecting with folks in P&E to find out more about the job call process so you can actually prepare appropriately, and speak to others who have gone through the process so that you can learn about that. And I think that's where mentors come in very, very handy, because they themselves have been through the job call process very likely, and can help you to prepare.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jennifer. And actually, we did one of the webinars we did here was on resume screening and selection process at the City of Toronto. And I ran that webinar, and we did say, you know, it's about, you know, the way you write your story and make sure it's clear and concise and tailored. And as Jennifer rightfully says, you're demonstrating on your resume that you meet the qualifications that they're looking for. So, you know, maybe one of the recommendations would be to have someone take a look at your resume before you apply for that policy position, or any position for that fact. Have someone screen your resume, someone you trust, to make sure that they're identifying that you've outlined the skills and that you understand the competencies and the capabilities that are required for each of those positions. So I hope that answered your question. Any of the other panelists wanted to jump in on that? And keep the questions going, folks.
Just picking up on something that that Scott had said earlier. Nothing's a failure. It's definitely learning, and it's an opportunity to grow. I did an expression of interest call way back, and the candidates that were screened out, I invited them to feedback session. So I invited each and every one of them to get feedback. Probably about, I'd say 80% of the people took me up on it. And I had meetings with them and shared with them the similar to Jennifer, the process and what we go through, but nothing is a failure. Everything is definitely opportunity to learn. So I just wanted to pick up on that.
Awesome. And I just want to leverage as well, in the workshops that we did, we talked about the 360 review, which is that feedback process, right? You get that feedback from your supervisors, your managers, a colleague that you trust, right? We also talked about the Johari window, where you use to kind of identify your skill sets, make sure that you're seeing all your skills for what it actually is. So these are some resources that we shared with you throughout this webinar season, and I hope you can go back and review those. There's another question I wanted to get to. It says, how can someone in frontline with experience and Canadian education, but no experience in the job that they're applying to, qualify? Very good question. And I will give the panelists an opportunity to answer. Anyone wanted to take a bite at this one first?
I can
Says,
take
how-
I can
okay,
take a
go
quick
ahead,
stab at
Scott.
it. And I think that's what I kind of touched on, is that we see this a lot with frontline staff who are applying. And again, it depends on the position that you're applying for. So I'm not sure if this person is applying for a PDO position or a position as a shift leader or SSA. I don't know. But I think again, this is the piece that we've been talking about a lot, is to provide opportunities, especially at an AR level, to give people the opportunity to actually work in the position for a little while, to sit in the chair for a little while, to experience the position for a little while, so that when they do apply, that experience can also go onto their resume. So that's the piece that is important. I think that's an essential part of our organization. I mean, and it's a conversation that we continue to have, that, we have these AR opportunities for particular classification, but I feel and I think that it's important to have these AR opportunities for all classifications in management, to give people an opportunity to actually experience the position. And I think it's something that, as an organization, I think it's a good pathway, if we're considering succession planning, which we are, to create these opportunities for frontline staff, so that they at least can have it on their resume when they do apply for these positions.
Well said. Jennifer, you wanted to jump in, or Karlene?
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with you wholeheartedly on that, Scott. But I think in addition to that, I'll just add that of course, there'll be lots of circumstances where you are applying for a job or making that leap from union to non-union when you may not have done the job that you're applying for. But what is key is that you understand what the qualifications are for that position. So the time to prepare for a job call is not when the job call is in play. So if that's a job that you want, you should be pulling the application right now. You should be looking at the key qualifications. You should be figuring out which ones you have, and the ones that you don't, how do you bridge that gap? Because there is ways in your current position, and perhaps it's through volunteering, it's in other ways that you can actually get that key qualification, so that when the time comes to compete, that you are competitive. And of course, if you know people who are doing the job, this is the time to reach out to get a sense of what the job actually entails, because what we're looking for in management is transferable management skills. So if the requirement is project management, if it's leadership, if it's communication, what transferable skills do you have in the other places and positions that you've worked, and be able to articulate that on the resume, as I think Donna said, clear and concisely. I'll be honest, I don't want to read an 8-page resume, please. 2 or 3 pages, clear and concise, and don't talk about what you want to talk about. Talk about what is in the job posting. Because too many times people seem to ignore what those key qualification statements are, and they talk about a lot of other things. But what we're looking for is you to speak specifically to the qualifications and how you have that qualification. So now is the time to begin to prepare. You have to have a plan. You cannot do it overnight, and build that in as part of your professional development journey.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. Karlene, you have the final word on this.
I love that. And my background is full of developmental detours. So we talk about a path, and I'm just going to use that as an analogy. It is full of developmental detours. Case in point, I came to the city to work in a contact center. I am now in SSHA, and those transferable skills that Jennifer just spoke about, it's real, y'all. It's real. So I had an understanding of of KPIs and metrics and processes and change, and leaned into that and took a chance. I was intimidated coming into a social services role, not having grown up in that environment and that background, but that's where those transferable skills hit, and it kind of hit right. And I've been here since 2018 so far. So it's definitely a thing. So don't be afraid to take a developmental detour. You know that that's your goal position. Maybe that's 2 moves away. But bet on yourself, bet on your skills, and yeah.
Well said, Karlene. Thank you so much. So thank you for participating in this event. Special thanks to our panelists, Karlene, Scott, and Jennifer, for taking the time to be here today and sharing your insights with us. We will be having a closing ceremony to wrap up the mentorship program on November 29th at 11 to 12. Hoping to see you there. If you've had a great mentorship experience where you were supported to move into a new position or progress in other ways through receiving mentorship support, we would like to hear from you. Please send us an email with your story at gmo-sssha@toronto.ca and share your story with us. Have a great rest of the afternoon, everyone. Thank